The Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan has long been known as a Shangri-La of happiness. This devoutly Buddhist nation is fiercely proud of its culture and traditions. But after decades of self-imposed exile, Bhutan is now slowly opening up. With the introduction of democracy and more foreign investments, many worry this mountain paradise may soon be lost. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 Eats, we speak exclusively with Prime Minister Jigme Thinley about the impact of globalization on Bhutan. In an ever-increasingly globalized world, one country seems to have remained untouched. The Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan. This mainly Buddhist nation remained isolated for decades, and today it actively cultivates the image of a pristine Shangri-La. Here, gross national happiness, or GNH, eclipses the nation's GDP in importance. It's a concept developed by the nation's fourth monarch to consolidate spiritual and economic development.
Gross national happiness is a way we take all the benefits of modernization, but while holding on to our values, our culture, and tradition. That means, for instance, that if we do industries, they must be clean. In terms of carbon emissions, they must be neutral or negative. In terms of culture, it must be culturally sensitive.
The practice of GNH is taken very seriously here. Cultural preservation is seen in the compulsory wearing of traditional dress in schools, government offices, and on formal occasions. Environmental consideration is enshrined in the Constitution, dictating that at least 60% of the country's forests must be preserved. Economic self-reliance is practiced in subsistence farming, and good governance was developed further 2 years ago when the nation adopted democracy after more than a century of monarchy.
Things really haven't changed much, and that is a great tribute to our kings. The system under our monarchs was so useful and so benevolent and so appreciated by the people that with democracy, democracy hasn't really delivered any new freedoms, so to speak, to them.
But as Bhutan finds itself opening up to economic development, there are concerns the principles of GNH may be compromised. A current debate in Parliament is whether the nation should join the World Trade Organization. Another heated topic is India's plans to harness Bhutan's hydroelectric power by financing 4 projects.
Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, I don't know. But we should pause and think about the social, economic, environmental consequences of these policies. Are we balancing material goals with spiritual needs, environmental protection, vis-a-vis our hydropower policies? Sure.
Some are cautious over the pace with which Bhutan is courting foreign investments and development, fearing it will bring too much undesirable change to the nation.
We are not an economic power. We are not a military power, but in a world which is fast losing its cultural values, Bhutan can be a leader in cultural preservation and environment conservation. We can be a leader and in propounding the philosophy of GNH. But if we open ourselves up to the outside world, it would ultimately mean the watering down the philosophy of GNH.
Television and the internet were introduced only in 1999. Today, with satellite TV offering 40 channels of foreign entertainment and unrestricted internet access, some observers worry how the younger generation is being affected.
Most of the youth really don't know what to do with their, their time. I think the youth used to go on picnics and, go and visit family members and all that. But I think that has slowly changed. And they are more glued to, TV, to video games.
More worrying is a rise in drug use and gang violence among the nation's youth, which is attributed to Bhutan's modernization.
Rapid urbanization for one, also exposure, and a lot of our youth go out to study. They bring back bad habits, easy accessibility to drugs and alcohol, and then I think generally maybe changes in the lifestyle. There are more clubs in urban areas.
As Bhutan progresses, many say its rural communities are being left behind. The country's mountainous landscape and lack of infrastructure mean many far-flung villages miss out on vital development. We travelled with local journalist Tashi Dema to a village 6 hours drive from the capital Thimphu.
In this village, there are 63 households, and the people in this village, they suffer from lack of shortage of land to construct house, which is forcing them about 4 to 5 families live in one single house, and then there's drinking water shortage, and then no good toilet facilities also.
Several villagers told us they were more inclined to rely on their Buddhist faith rather than government policies to help them through their hardships.
Like she's saying that having enough to eat is happiness for her.
Yeah. That makes her happy.
Yes.
Not gross national happiness.
No, that makes her happy.
Bhutan's traditional villages attract tourists from across the world, but local activists say life here is not as easy as it may seem.
I cringe every time they say, but compare Bhutan and Shangri-La. It's one thing to romanticize. We can really say, okay, we want to keep them that way. But I mean, for the members in that community that has no electricity, has to depend on a kerosene stove or has to depend on cooking in an open fire and things like that, I don't think they really want to stay that way. A better living condition is definitely something that even villagers aspire to.
While the government claims their policies are guided by GNH for the well-being of the population, there are obstacles in implementing the concept. Tashi took us to meet Wang Mo, who lives in a makeshift hut with 8 other members of her family. They work as hired laborers and barely make ends meet.
First thing, to get help, she needs a registered house number. Okay. And she does not have that because she doesn't have a house. And then to construct a house, the local leader has told her that first she has to have a map. After getting the map, she has to take it to the forest official and then get the pass for timber and all. Right. And then the local leader has told her that it is a long process, and then she will...
And that's why she can't get any help from the government at all. Nearly a quarter of Bhutan's population live in poverty, but the government provides free health services across the nation. Before Western-style education was introduced in the 1960s, Bhutan's children received informal schooling in monasteries. Today, 11 years of basic schooling is provided for all Bhutanese. While most issues are readily discussed in this young democracy, there is one that remains politically sensitive. There are 100,000 ethnic Nepalese living in UN-run camps along Bhutan's border. They claim to have been driven out of their homes in southern Bhutan in the 1980s as part of the then monarch's program to preserve pure Bhutanese culture. Negotiations with neighbouring Nepal over repatriation of these refugees have failed, and it is a subject that is not talked about openly in Bhutan.
We believe that the people in the camps in Nepal, they have left the country of their own volition. That is the stand of our government. But I'm not speaking on behalf of the government. That is what we have been given to understand.
In Kathmandu, we met up with Teknath Rizal, an ethnic Nepalese born and bred in Bhutan. He was once a member of Bhutan's parliament, claiming to have been jailed and then exiled for uncovering corruption under the former monarch's rule. He now heads a movement pushing for the repatriation of refugees back to Bhutan. He rejects claims the refugees were illegal migrants in the first place.
जस्तै अघि उहाँले भन्नुभयो क्याम्पको मान्छेलाई भुटानिज होइन भन्छ नि भनेर
If you say that the people in the camp are not Bhutanese, then why did countries like America, Canada, Australia, why are they taking these people? These people are not being taken as Nepalese.
भुटान म यसकारण फर्कन चाहन्छु
I want to go back to Bhutan because it's my country, it's my home. I was born there. However painful or full of struggle our life may be, you always want to live in your own country. That's why I want to go back to my country.
With its mountainous beauty, abundant resources and peaceful living, it's no wonder anyone would want to be part of Bhutan. Visitors to the country are reluctant to leave, believing they have indeed found Shangri-La. But as Bhutan slowly opens up to the rest of the world, it's not known just how its people, its culture and traditions, and its happiness will be affected. Coming up after the break, we speak exclusively with Prime Minister Jigme Thinley about the impact of globalization on Bhutan. Stay with 101 East. Welcome back to 101 East. This week we are in the Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan as we discuss how democracy and globalization has affected this nation's gross national happiness. Speaking exclusively with us is Prime Minister Jigme Thinley. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
Democracy was introduced 2 years ago. What changes have you seen in this country?
Well, for one thing, the people, I think, now are beginning to understand rather slowly that how the country grows and develops is now in their hands, as opposed to this matter being the responsibility of one man alone, and that was the king. And I think as we go on, we have now completed 2 years. I do believe that the people will want to be playing an increasing role in the way and with respect to the decisions that the government takes.
How difficult is it to maintain GNH, or gross national happiness, with opening up Bhutan to the rest of the world?
Being very honest, it has not really been difficult at all. And in fact, I have really seen little or no adverse impact of Bhutan's opening out to the outside world, especially through the media. There is a sense of pride about being Bhutanese. I think it has made us more conscious and more aware of the values, of the heritage that we have cherished.
What is your personal opinion about it, about joining the World Trade Organization? Would you like to see Bhutan join the WTO?
Bhutan is yet to decide. There is an ongoing debate, as you have observed earlier, on whether Bhutan should join and whether by joining we will gain more or we will have more to lose. And we are in the process of determining and weighing the pros and the cons. We'll take our decision when we are very certain of the advantages.
It's very interesting because Bhutan really is the only country in the world that officially pursues the state of happiness. And this is all wrapped up in trying to protect Bhutanese culture, tradition, religion, identity. Why are all these things so important to Bhutan?
You find it peculiar, I think, but I find it rather peculiar that not too many countries in the world are doing what we are, and that is being convinced that happiness is, in the end, what matters most. Here in Bhutan, we have become very conscious. It is a very conscious pursuit. The state has taken upon itself the responsibility of creating the enabling conditions.
Some would say, though, that it's easy for Bhutan to pursue that line of policies because Bhutan doesn't have the material growth.
The moment you arrived here in this country, you will have found that in terms of the material aspects of our ecology, we are doing very well. That's material wealth. Ecologically, we are very rich. 72% of this country is under forest cover, and it is growing. Everyone has a home. They have means of livelihood. Unemployment, although rising, it is now about 4%. It still, was until recent days something that was unheard of. Our roads reach almost every part of this country, and those that have not reached, we will ensure will be done, will be accessed within the next 3 years. I think the Bhutanese understand very well that life as we live it, that the macroeconomic models within which countries are so-called growing are not really promoting a sustainable way of life. Look at the climate, it's changing. Natural resources are depleting. Every conventional economic model promotes growth. Growth to what end? Growth for how long? And it's all about senseless growth.
You were once quoted as saying humanity must evolve a new set of ethics, a new approach to sharing rather than profiting. We need to accept that prosperity amidst inequity is fragile. I ask you then, can globalization and gross national happiness, can they coexist?
They must. They need to. But nobody wants to give up what they have. And they are so very oblivious to the reality and to the fact that what they have cannot last. And in the end, what we really have as a result of this rat race, this consumerist ethos that guides our way of life, it's all an illusion, demonstrated by the recent calamities that we have faced. The recent financial crises that we've had, beginning with the Great Depression.
I want to move away from GNH now for just a while and talk
about... But why?
Let's
talk about happiness.
Bhutan and Nepal have had ongoing discussions about Bhutanese refugees that fled the country in the 1980s. Critics have called them victims of an ethnic cleansing program. Was it an ethnic cleansing program? When
it comes to this particular problem of the people in the camps, refugee camps in Nepal, Bhutan has been branded. Bhutan, it has, as perpetrator of human rights violations, ethnic cleansing. It is unfair and it is absolutely wrong. What I can say is that the people in the refugee camps in Nepal, numbering about 100,000, are in fact the victims of a humanitarian situation.
How so?
Caused by a demographic explosion, by ecological damages, ecological disasters, by economic deprivation.
But these are Bhutanese, aren't they? These were ethnic Nepalese Bhutanese who were driven out of their homes.
I'll get to that. By an agreement with India, which enables the free movement of Nepalese across India. And Bhutan happens to be on the fringes, on the side of that population migration route. And in the more recent years, we've had floods or waves and waves of illegal immigration. And the people in the camps are mostly people who have been expelled from our country lawfully upon having entered our country illegally. But the vast majority are not Bhutanese. It is wrong to say that they are Bhutanese.
And so you deny what critics called ethnic cleansing in the 1980s.
Of course.
You don't
think that were the case, then the 1/5 of our people who are of ethnic Nepalese origin would not be here and would not be enjoying their rights as they do. For instance, 1/5 of our parliament comprises of ethnic Nepalese.
There are some, though.
It's baseless.
Well, some would say that the whole program was basically to protect Bhutanese culture and tradition, which again is something that is very central to Bhutanese life.
Everyone has a right to interpret, and I think it is popular to interpret, to put situations like this in the human rights color and be seen as a champion. But who's going to champion the cause of Bhutan? Bhutan's survival. We, even as small as our population is, population management is a serious challenge. Family planning is a very big program here in Bhutan. We are, of course, firstly, demographically responsible. Unlike some countries that are equally fragile as Bhutan have therefore suffered from population explosions that led to this problem in the first place, this huge population movement. And secondly, GNH is about sustainability. There is a limit to how much the land can absorb.
Just finally, sir, what challenges do you see Bhutan facing as it slowly opens up more and more to the rest of the world?
I find reasons to be optimistic. The world is changing, and it is changing because of the many shocks that human society is receiving. And in so doing, there is a growing population around the world that understands and appreciates and sees gross national happiness, this philosophy, as an alternative holistic development paradigm. And in so doing, I believe that even as we have been inspired and encouraged by our development partners, including the casual tourist who comes here and says, don't change, stay the way you are. I think it's beautiful. To be happy in the end is what matters most. And when we come here, we find everybody is happy. Everybody is smiling. Even the stray dogs appear to be smiling. This is what they say. And the world is changing, and changing for the better. And when that is the case, Bhutan does not feel threatened.
Prime Minister, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East from the team here in Bhutan. Thanks for watching.